Okay, this is part 2 of the totals or TODALS video. Um, so what you need to do is remember that the word totals, TODALS, sta the letters in the word totals each stand for one of the map elements. So we're up to the letter D, and the D stands for date. The date tells you when the map was made. So this is important to know if the map is up to date. Let me give you an example uh, of why this would be important sometimes, because not all maps are up to date. Because remember, I said that some countries can change; they won't be the same all the time, right? So let's take a look at an example of this. So what I want everybody to do right now is I want everybody to take a look at this map, right? Um, and I want you to focus your attention over here, right? Okay, I'm kind of going back and forth between these two maps. Do you notice anything different? And you should notice something different um, between these maps. And what you should notice is that over here, this map says Soviet Union. See that? And this map says Russia. But not only that, but some of these countries, this looks a little bit different than this. All right? Not completely different, but a little bit. So what's going on? So another example, something else, like for example, this country called Kazakhstan. It doesn't exist on this map, right? So we have to check the date. So as you can see, I know you might not be able to see it, but this date says that this map is from 1987. I know you can't see it that well. And this map, again, it's not as easy to see here, is from 2020. So obviously the more accurate map is this one. But or let's say you wanted a map from the 1980s that showed what the world looked like then. Well, then you would see that you would use this map because this shows us what the world looked like in 1987. Here's another example right here, the country of Sudan. Look at the country of Sudan back in 1987. Look at the country of Sudan today. I know you can't see it. It's hard to see, but right here you've got Sudan, and right here you have a country called South Sudan. So what happened is the country of Sudan had a civil war, and it split into two, Sudan, and this became South Sudan. So you can see why it's important to look at the date. So the D stands for the letter, for the word, for date, right? We have to look at the date. Okay? The A stands for author. The author is important because it tells us who created the map. This is important because you can tell if there are other maps made by that same author. So for example, and I don't think this shows up really well here. Okay, but right here, you have the name of the author right here. It's a guy named Professor Ted Gage, I believe. And so it's a map about, it's a map about COVID-19 deaths. All right. So let's say you wanted to know more about COVID-19 deaths, you would look to see who made this map, and you might be able to look for other things about him that he's done, right? That's one reason. Another reason that it's important to know who made the map is based on their reputation. Which of these cartoon personalities would you trust more to make a reliable map? I think you all know who Homer Simpson is, but he's just kind of like this goofy guy that doesn't really know a lot of things. Or this genius, it's kid genius, right? Who would you trust more to make a map? This guy or this genius here? Well, I would probably trust the genius, right? So again, some maps may be more accurate than other maps. That's also important. All right, and finally the last one, the L, oh no, second to last one, the L stands for legend or key. Sometimes it goes by legend, sometimes it goes by key. It's the same thing. The legend helps you interpret any symbols or colors that appear on the map. So, for example, if you see this on a map, you know that that's a park. If you see this on a map, you know that that's a gas station. A legend tells us that. Let's put that to use. So, for example, let's say I were to show you a picture of a map of my backyard, right? And I were to draw this map and I were to draw these symbols on it. Well, it's kind of hard to know what these symbols stand for if we don't have a key or a legend, right? I mean, that's weird. Maybe this is a river. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's, I don't even know what that is. Looks like maybe there's another house here. There's a bunch of dots here. So it's kind of hard to know what these things stand for on my backyard without a key. So now let's add a key. So now I know that this shape stands for a doghouse, right? So now you know that in my backyard I have a doghouse right here. I really don't, but this is just... And right here, all these dots, that stands for a sandbox. This thing that kind of looks like a bomb maybe, it's really a tomato garden, right? And that's right here. This are mountains that I have in my backyard. Not really, but this is. And then this that we thought was a river is actually my pet snake. That's where my pet snake lives. Again, not really, but all right. So that's why a legend or a key is important. Finally, the last one. Oh, one more thing about the key or the legend. Sometimes instead of symbols, you're just going to have colors. So you need a key or a legend to tell you what these colors stand for, what each color stands for. Okay? The last one, scale. All right, so the scale you usually find at the bottom of the map. And the scale tells you how the real distance in real life on the Earth compares to the distance on a map. And it usually looks something like this. It's usually going to have something that looks like 1 inch equals 250 miles. And what that means is if you measure 1 inch on the map, that's going to equal 250 miles in real life. And you're usually going to see something like this, like a bar, almost like a ruler looking thing. And that is the scale. Okay? So that's what the S stands for. So in summary, the map tools, if you use the word TODALS, TODALS, the map tools are the T is for title, the O is for orientation, the D is for date, the A is for author, the L is for legend or key, and then the S is for scale. So those are the map tools that you're going to use. All right, so now this says group work, but it's not really going to be group work. Here's what you're going to have to do. What you're going to have to do is you are going to have to go back to the presentation. I'm sorry, not the presentation, back to the worksheet. It's not that one. All right, so go back to the presentation. So we already did this one, totals, and you're going to fill the rest of it out. And then what you're going to do, you're going to look at each map. Okay, look at map 1. And the first question says, list the map elements or totals that you see on map 1. So let's kind of go through this. In map 1, do we see a title? Yeah, right here, right? So you're going to write down that we see a title. Okay. What's the next letter? O, orientation. Do we see a compass rose? O, remember the O is for the directions. And we find that by a compass rose? Yeah, we see a compass rose right here. So go ahead and put an O, orientation. Do we see a date? I do not see a date on this. Do we see an author or an organization that made it? Right here, Yahoo Travel. So yes, we do see an author. TODAL. Do we see a legend or a key? We do not see a legend or a key. Do we see a scale? Right here we see the scale, so you would write down scale. So those are the totals, the map elements that you can find. And now the last question for this map, write a one-sentence explanation explaining what the map is about. So just write one sentence telling me what this map is about. So you're going to do that for maps 1, maps 2, and maps 3. All right, and then you can go ahead and submit your work, and that'll be it, and then you'll be done. Okay, so that is what you have to do for today.